We are wrapping our part of our special recap of today's closing arguments in Trump's criminal trial. But do not go anywhere. Our coverage continues with the last word and Lawrence O'Donnell, who spent today in court and has the back pain to prove it. Good evening, my friend. Good evening.
I was working on my posture for most of the day, Rachel, in that chair. But look, Rachel, two full reporters' notebooks today. I've never filled up two in a day before, I think. Certainly not a courtroom day. It went on longer than any of us expected. I think longer than most of us thought was necessary. But, you know, it was one of those no stone unturned closings by the prosecution. The defense, I thought, was as effective as they could be given the cards that have been dealt them. They've got some internal contradictions in their theory of the case. But remember, this is a criminal defense team trying to defend Donald Trump. Yeah. Good luck with that. It's going to look pretty messy.
Judge Merchan said at the outset that it is his practice as a matter of running his courtroom. He likes for the jury to get both summations on one day. Mm-hmm. And I felt like heading into today, I was so worried about whether or not there would be other trailing ends from the trial, which sort of ended on the schedule he didn't want last week, and whether they'd be able to squeeze them in. I was thinking each summation would be like 90 minutes. When we got 3 hours, and that was the short one, and then 4 hours and 40 minutes as the second one, I mean, it really was an endurance test for the jury. But the judge, who seems to be very bonded with this jury, does seem to think that it is in their best interest that they got them both today, that they didn't have a break, and that when they come back fresh tomorrow, they are just looking at him and listening to him and then getting to work.
Yeah, and the judge did say when this thing was well into overtime that he has been, after the jury left for a recess, he told the lawyers, I've been watching the jury. They still seem to be with us. They still seem to be ready to keep going. And of course, the jury wants to go. They want to get this job done and have it be over with as soon as is reasonably possible for them. And so the judge had already said to them, listen, we might need to go late on Tuesday night. They were warned about that a week ago, so they were ready to go late tonight. And but boy, when we heard the prosecutor say that he maybe had 4 hours of material, I have to say it felt like, we're going to be here tomorrow morning finishing the final summation here. But the judge really didn't want that to happen. And Rachel, just to show you, the judge does have limits to his patience. This is one of those things that you had to kind of be in the courtroom for. In the last, 10 minutes or so of Josh Steinglass's summation that the judge clearly was finished with. Like, this really should be over. There was a moment where there was an objection, Todd Blanchard objection. It was sustained, understandable objection, sustained. And then the prosecutor said, may we approach? Now, every single time that either lawyer said, may we approach in this trial, every single time, they approached the bench and had a bench conference. This time, in the fourth hour of the DA's summation, when he said to the judge, may we approach, there's no word in the transcript because it's just the judge shaking his head no. Just no. Just
talk
no.
To the hand.
Nope, don't approach. Don't even think about approaching.
That's fantastic.
You should approach the exit, is what the judge was letting him know.
I know you need to start your portion of the recap, and this is rude of me to do, but can I ask you one more question about your experience in the courtroom? You have been in the court a bunch of days, and not just in the overflow room, but in the courtroom itself. Do you have a vibe from the jury in terms of what you think, how you think the jury is behaving, whether there might be a holdout or two juror who really isn't paying attention, who might not be there in good faith? Do you feel like the jury is doing a good jury job?
You know, I'm so glad you asked that, because that's exactly how I was about to begin this discussion here.
Okay.
There is, by the way, nothing in the teleprompter tonight. I haven't had a time to write a single word rushing from the courthouse up here. But this is exactly how I wanted to begin, and I'm glad to begin it with you, because I do believe that I've now heard all of the testimony. I've heard every word of the summations. And hearing every word of the summations is maybe the most important thing you can do. If you could pick one day to be there, that would be the day. And so what I can tell the audience, and I can tell you, is I've been in a lot of courtrooms over the course of my life. I've heard a lot of testimony. I've had strong feelings about possible verdicts at the end of summations. I've certainly had strong feelings about what the obvious and correct verdict is, and only some kind of jury bias can derail this. This is one where I don't have any idea. I'm coming out of this with no ability to read this jury at all. I had a great, this afternoon, I had one of the best views of the jury I've had of the entire trial. By the way, in that courtroom, no one has a good view of every juror. That's impossible in the way the courtroom is laid out. Sometimes you'll have a better view of the back row of jurors if you're on the right side of the room. Other angles have other views of jurors. I've seen all of these jurors at different times and studied them all as much as I could. I can't find anything from any of them, and I offer them that as praise, because that's what they should be delivering to me and to everyone else in the courtroom. They should be delivering nothing. Except their attention where their attention is merited, whether it's the witness stand or the attorney's podium, as it was today. And they are just fully and constantly attentive, more so than any jury I've ever seen. You don't see a moment of them drifting off at any point, even at the times when some of us in the audience might drift off a bit because it might feel like we're going down a tangent. That jury is so attentive and so on point all the way through, and they've never given me the slightest hint, and I haven't heard from anyone else, anybody getting hints about how this jury is feeling. I think that the defense did everything they could do today and throughout the trial to introduce reasonable doubt. And it's always a question of, is that enough reasonable doubt that the defense has introduced for enough jurors? Is it enough reasonable doubt for one juror? Is it enough for 12? I don't know. Did the prosecution present its case beyond a reasonable doubt? I think that could be a very clear and relatively easy finding for this jury. But I come out of it able to tell you, Rachel, I have no idea which way this verdict is going to come out. I won't be surprised by any version of this verdict.
It's fascinating to hear you say that, and I'm glad you've taken the time to do it. I'm sorry to be taking over your hour by making you do this with me, but we're starting to see the first reporting now that is attributing, confidence or hope or worry about jurors to one side or the other in the case, and it feels like wishful thinking and projection by, in this case, the Trump side, than it does more than by anything that seems actually observable in the courtroom. And I feel like that's a good reality check for all of us, that there's nothing, and it was my experience as well being there a couple of days, there's nothing that this jury has done to tell you what they are going to, how they are going to deliberate, or whether any of them is going to act in a bad faith way and force a hung jury when one isn't deserved. And at this point, it really is in the jurors' hands, and this judge has treated them with respect, and they've treated the process with respect, and that's how it's supposed to go. Yeah,
that's absolutely the case. For me, most of the time, in most of the trials I've seen, jury guesswork has been a complete waste of time. Yeah. I have wasted none of my time on that subject in that courtroom.
Right on, Lawrence. Thank you, my friend. Much appreciated. I hope you get some important ibuprofen in your future.
I'm going to need it. Thanks, Rachel.
Thank you, Lawrence.
Thank you.